चलो आई थिंक स्ट्रीमिंग तो स्टार्ट हो गया, एक बार रिकॉर्डिंग वो स्टार्ट कर देते हैं. रिकॉर्डिंग भी स्टार्ट हो गया होपफुली. देखो फाइल बन रही है क्या. ओके हाँ फाइल हो रही है. ऑलराइट चलो जी स्टार्ट करते हैं. मैं काम की चीज़ लगा देता हूँ स्क्रीन शेयर पे. पहले तो स्क्रीन शेयर ही बंद करते हैं, हम ही डिस्कस करते हैं. हाँ जी. सो किक ऑफ करें आज CISSP.
बिल्कुल.
ओके.
CISSP.
तो क्या देखा पिछले वीक, क्या वीडियोस एंड ऑल.
हिंदी में बात करनी है?
यार इंग्लिश में भी कर सकता, मैं तो आपके उससे कर रहा था कि मतलब
नहीं
कंफर्टेबल.
नहीं.
इंग्लिश में चलो.
ले, ये तो जब तुम फॉर्मलाइज करेगा इसे यूट्यूब पे डालेगा तो क्यों फिर हिंदी में करनी?
बात तो ये भी सही है.
तू कौन से फेसबुक पे डाल रहा है या फिर वहाँ इंस्टा पे डाल रहा है? यूट्यूब पे जाएगी, लिंक्डइन पे भी जा सकती है.
हाँ हाँ
लेट इट
ये.
बी प्रोफेशनल, लेट इट बी ग्लोबल. माइक
ओके.
चैपल हमारे पास आएगा.
ओके 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 हाँ ये
ठीक है,
थोड़ा
इनके
सही
लाइक्स
रहेगा.
बहुत ज्यादा हो गए.
यस यस
इनसे
ये.
बात करो.
हमारी मतलब कम्युनिटी हमें नॉर्थ इंडिया स्पेसिफिक नहीं रखनी है ना. वी वांट टू मेक इट ग्लोबल. एनीवन कैन
Global.
यस
You
ओके.
wanted to start something in UK in collaboration with Australia. So
Yes, yes. Between two big economies, we will
if
start as.
even I have got a mat with a map from Australia to UK. I was just measuring it. ये मैंने मैट लिया है इसके लिए. आई मीन ये यूज करने के लिए, माउस यूज करने के लिए. तो वो उस पर पूरा
मैप
मैप है.
बना.
तो मैं उसे देख रहा था यूके से कितना दूर है ऑस्ट्रेलिया.
ओके ओके ओके. तो
एनीवे, लेट्स गेट स्टार्टेड.
yes, let's go. So we are starting CISSP kickoff meeting today. We are following some of the resources from LinkedIn, some free resources from IC Square website, and let's discuss how we can proceed, how we can start our journey.
So if I may come in here, we have started with basics from the Mike Chappell LinkedIn learning program, what is there onto the LinkedIn. And to start with, there are 8 sections of security which you might want to bring in some time onto the screen.
Yeah.
Yeah. And in those 8 sections, the minimum criteria which I have got to know or learned so far is that we need to have to gain the certification at last, that there has to be 2 domains in those 8 domains for 5 years of experience within 2 domains. That's the minimum criteria to gain certification.
Yeah. For those 8 domains, when I was following this Mike Chappell video, first of all, Mike Chappell video seems like it's quite summarized kind of thing. It don't have much detail. Maybe if we go in the main section, we will continue actual section, we will find more things. But I followed his videos for CCSP. I am following them, and it seems like his content, at least on video, it's kind of like a brief overview of everything. So maybe we have to look in other resources sometime later, but at least it's a good start. We can have some kind of idea with them for those eight
Well,
section.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree with that. I find it very precise, very direct, very fast sometimes as well.
Yeah.
That it has, I didn't catch much, although I think there wasn't much into those basic section, but I couldn't catch much into respective 8 sections, and it went by like that.
Yeah.
So I think
Yes.
I think that there will be more stuff will be needed to
Yeah.
before we sit into the exam. So
Yeah.
we'll talk about that. I have kind of noted a couple of points where we would, I think, need to strategize before we move
Yeah.
on to actual preparation. Yeah.
Yep. Okay. Let me bring up that 8 section list on my screen. Then we can discuss one by one on that thing. Okay. So these are the 8 sections, right?
Yep.
So let's discuss one by one from domain one itself. Security and risk management. I don't. Do they have some more information in the document itself? No, they don't. Okay, so uh, first we discuss what we understand for domain one, what should be coming, then we see what actually will be there as per their official syllabus. So security risk and management, what I understand was more related to kind of like governance part of thing, how you can plan certain thing, what kind of framework your organization must be using, and what kind of security strategy you should be having. For example, if some new joinee is joining on in your organization, what kind of like rights or what kind of rules must be applied for making him onboarded to the organization, and if someone leaves the organization, how to clean up or clear all those things related to that user, things related to how management looks into different stakeholders, how they deal with basically uh, all in all, more less towards the technical side of things and more towards
Mm.
managing and strategizing based on the framework and security best practices, right? That's what
Yes,
we.
it's overall security concepts following the security rules what are described more in next seven sections,
Mm-hmm.
and you know overall security following overall security architecture in a
Mm-hmm.
holistic, so that and not only related to one specific person but to whole department, team, or an organization,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and an overarching level. So that's what I think this security and you said it right. It's kind of framework,
Mm-hmm.
not any specific security which need to be applied, but as a framework set of processes,
Yeah.
what need to be.
And I think this is having 15%. I recall he mentioned in the video as well that this is kind of like having most number of questions from this domain, and it's kind of like more lengthy as well compared to other, which makes sense because it's more theoretical compared to the other domains. And
Yes.
normally in other certification, I observe that this kind of governance related things comes all the way in the last domain, and for this is first time for CISSP I'm seeing that it's happening in domain one itself, which I makes sense because it's more towards managerial kind of thing. It's not really a technical certification.
Mm,
So
right.
okay, for domain 2, asset security, was it related to? I don't recall. What was it
I
related
think
to?
it is more related to your data centers and
Okay, okay.
the the hardware set of security, where you are not only kind of securing the network, but also securing the infrastructure as such.
Okay,
Uh,
okay.
Starting from the access to a specific personal into the data center, and
Mm-hmm.
then also retaining the security of the data center itself in different ways. So
Mm.
it's more of on the hardware side and more on
Those actual
uh,
network equipments which we have to
yes,
manage.
yes,
Mm-hmm. Okay.
yes.
Yep. Right. For this, I think it will be then we will be delving more into the technical side of things, maybe as well as planning new infrastructure. What kind of strategies we should be having if we are planning something new, if we are having new maybe onboarding of new application or something. What kind of
And
setups?
maybe based upon the severity and priority of
Yes.
the networks and the domains, this kind of uh, planning might be required into the infrastructure, that what level of security is required for some set of network devices which are residing in the core of the network of any organization, and what set of planning is required for the end or edge network or access side of the network.
Mm-hmm.
So
And I
this
think
is,
business continuity and DR is also part of this domain. Seems like I don't recall what which part of which domain, but way we looks like that it should be part of domain 2 as well. How we can plan a standby site, how we can create kind of a resilient infrastructure.
yeah, that will come under this, I think.
Mm-hmm. Okay, for domain three, security, architecture, and engineering, this I think is more towards creating an actual set of secured architecture. What kind of criteria which should be having if we are setting up new application or something. And
So it's more of defining the, as you said, the set of applications into different levels or different tiers of security architecture
mm-hmm,
within the network. So let's suppose an application needs to be having less severity of data,
mm-hmm,
need to reside onto the lower tier of the security,
mm-hmm,
while an application which is more majorly having very sensitive or highly sensitive data of users or credentials that need to reside into the very higher severity
mm-hmm,
domain or zone. So that's how we define the security architecture with the help of different things. In network, it is majorly defined with the either with the help of the firewalls, which are, and also with the set of if you specifically talk about network, then it will be based upon your uh, virtual routing domains,
mm-hmm,
where you have a certain number of applications connected to only uh, one routing domain,
mm,
and all the networking will be ingested
mm,
or kind of uh, stitched from one routing domain to another routing domains virtually
it kind
or
of
physically maybe.
I think this domain 3 and domain 4 kind of seems like are overlapping, because even in domain 4 it's covering communication and network security, which maybe indirectly will be elaborating more on the same topics, how we can
Yeah, I
secure
think we'll come to know.
infrastructure,
Yeah,
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 from network side. Maybe if we talk precisely about domain 4, then we will be discussing about all course all those segmentations which we can use to have isolation on the network level, because of course cloud is not cloud, even any kind of infrastructure these days is kind of having multi-tenancy, so you have to have proper isolation. And beside isolation, of course, ultimately traffic is still flowing on some ports, on some with some packets, and those ports m- may not all ports may not be secure. So how you can implement port level security, what kind of additional things you can put in place. Maybe you can have this WAF and virtual web firewall, virtual web application firewall, and all those things for network level security. So maybe domain 4 will cover more towards that bit, but seems like domain 3 and 4 we will be having kind of relation, and those kind of complement each other. For
I don't remember the exact percentage which constitutes to this certification, but this also carry higher weightage
mm-hmm.
onto the certification, around 15% or so.
Okay,
Either domain 4, I think.
okay. All right. Domain 5 is IAM. So this one is seems pretty straightforward. What kind of
Yeah,
multi-factor authentication we can put in place? We have these so-called single sign-on solutions which
correct.
you can use to authenticate across multiple devices. But of course, those need to be secured itself as well. uh, and role-based access control should be part of IAM
Yes,
as well.
yes.
So all different user, what kind of roles they are associated with them. I think this one also cover, I recall, something related to mandatory and discretionary access control, which we can implement for a particular device and equipment. So, it will cover both user accounts as well as service account level of authentication. So the domain 5 is pretty straightforward, means we can understand from
Yes.
the name itself.
Yeah, domain 5 is, as you said, it's quite clear from the name itself that it's talking majorly about the the access methods which are followed based upon taking the security aspects into consideration,
Mm-hmm.
starting from the role based and then identity and then centralizing the with the single sign on, as you said, centralizing the the access management onto
Mm-hmm.
one secure device and getting the authentication and authorization from there.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, this is quite straightforward in terms of understanding.
Mm-hmm.
Most of us has already worked on this side of
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
security domain for sure.
Mm-hmm.
For
Yeah.
be it be any physical device or be it be any virtual node.
Yes. Right.
So
Mm-hmm.
this is quite familiar to all of who are working into this
Mm-hmm.
ICT domain.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Uh, for security assessment and testing, this was more related to uh, response, or incidents response was part
This
of the main
is
one.
yeah yeah this is around vulnerability scans
Hmm.
and testing, what we call.
Okay. Okay.
So there are different scanning tools which are available today in market for
Hmm.
scanning the images, uh, that whether there are any vulnerabilities present and those are secure or not to be used, or
Hmm.
there are any open threads or open loose ends into the images by which it can be found insecure. So there are uh, several vulnerabilities which are globally recognized based upon the CVIDs.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that can be these reports or these assessment can be performed by any third party or any
Yeah.
3PP
Yes. Yeah. We can
scanner.
even
But
use one VS scanner or something we can use.
yes, yes,
Mm-hmm.
I recently went through with my in my workplace with what do we call it? Not Nessus. Why I'm calling Nessus? I think it was Prisma vulnerability
Okay.
scanner.
Okay.
Yeah,
Hmm.
and pen testing, we all know it's more around performing the penetration testing into the
Mm-hmm.
network, that how much the network secure the network is from the outside world and how
Mm-hmm.
vulnerable it is to the outside world.
Yes, and based on our assessment, if we identify what kind of vulnerabilities any system have, we must be discussing about how we can resolve it, or uh, do we have to take some kind of exemption. Of course, patching is one of the way which we can with which we can resolve it. And sometimes these scanning tools or this solution we can use to before even having a vulnerability scan, we can directly recommend using these tools that your current version which you are using for your software, or for of the binaries which you are using as part of your application, you need to upgrade them because you are already using something which is end of life and which is maybe 3 or 4 years old. And I think it's really important in terms of if we are using containers as well, because containers we know have a lot of uh, those so-called open source binaries or packages as part of the image, which may be not coming from a trustworthy source, or maybe having old codes or something. So these assessment tools we can use to identify, and of course recommend, security team can recommend based on that what need to be done.
Yep. So tool is one side of it, but as you said, then these vulnerabilities, if you start with the containerized
Mm-hmm.
images which get scanned, and there are vulnerabilities which are dependent, or
Yes.
3PP, vulnerabilities which are used in that certain product.
Yeah.
Uh, it can be Java based, it can be Python based, or it can be, uh, any other protocol
Mm-hmm.
or language based, but they can be transitory in nature as well. That
Mm.
that it will be kind of present for a transitory environment, and also if it can be based upon that it got a dependency onto
Mm-hmm.
another image which is not used or available in your product, but has got a dependent
Yes.
vulnerability onto the other one. So yeah, it can be many types of it, and as you said, it right that it there are some vulnerabilities which might be open for long,
Mm-hmm.
but these open source are getting rectified or
Mm-hmm.
patched very frequently or very periodically,
Mm-hmm.
so that any product owner can go ahead and use those 3PP based
Mm-hmm.
images which are patched or which are free from vulnerabilities.
Yeah.
uh, those can be used to
Mm-hmm.
build a product.
Yep. Right. And for domain 8 as well, I think this particular concept will come back because domain 8 deals with software
Are
development.
you skipping 7? Are you
No, no, I'm
skipping
not.
7?
I'm just trying to relate that this discussion we had with domain 8, which is software
Yes,
development,
yes,
because software development
yes,
deals with that whole life cycle of using these open source repositories and everything.
yes.
Coming back to
We
7.
might not be very much, yeah, we might
Yeah,
not be
of
very much
course.
familiar and interactive with 8. We have not dealt with
Yes, yes.
development of software as such, but we'll get to know more from Mike Chappell, I think.
Yes,
If he
of
can
course.
be more
More
elaborative.
elaborative can. If otherwise we will have to find some other source.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, right.
Yeah, for
Yes,
domain 7 operations, this one I think again it's quite clear from the name itself. It deals with those operational issues which happen day in and day out in any organization. Maybe there is some requirement of opening a particular port or particular network configuration to be done on firewall side. Internal teams can have this discussion with the end security owners or infosec team. I'm not sure change management is part of secops as well, but we can put
yes.
that here as well. That
Change management can be of anything. I think it can be of network change management. It
hmm
can be of
security as
security,
well.
network security elements. So it can be related to this as well.
Yeah, yes. So yep, I think this one is also related to those day-to-day operation. I'm not sure we can highlight any specific thing which we can put in this, because this is something which comes in based on requirement basis. You do you think anything we can mention for secops which is worth noting? I don't see is there anything worth telling about
I
secops
think
itself.
security network operations center, whatever activities happen in security network operations center are,
Mm-hmm.
uh, quite uh, related to
Yeah.
this domain. It can be as more frequent and more very frequent in nature when it comes to security operations as to open a port for certain
Mm-hmm.
new product coming into the network or new application coming into the network. So that's a very day-to-day operation.
Mm-hmm.
Other than that, there can be anything, uh, as such of migration of the
Yeah.
security
Yeah.
components or bringing new components into the security environment,
Yeah.
into the existing security architecture, so that we are
Mm-hmm.
not touching the domain 3 and 4, but
Mm-hmm.
into the existing domain 3 and 4 we are doing some ongoing or new operations to bring some new elements,
Mm-hmm.
capacity enhancements, those sort of things.
Yeah, so not actually redesigning the existing infra, but
Yes,
fine tuning or doing some additional things on top of already agreed upon design and architecture.
correct. Yep.
I think this, by the name itself, it seems like our CMAN, those logging related solutions should be part of
Yes,
operations as well.
of course. Yes, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up. Yes, you're right. So SIEM is definitely if security event
Mm-hmm.
management
Yeah.
is something which is part of security operation, while you collect the logs, but you filter out the security logs
Mm-hmm.
and kind of perform analytics onto those
Yes,
logs
some kind of a
based
smart
upon
automation to
insecurity.
get.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
yes.
Okay.
So these are the 8 domains. I
Yeah.
believe that we, at least I can think about for yourself and me, that we know or we have worked in a way in our previous experience into 4 domains, 4 to 5 domains for sure, which is
Yes.
security architecture, engineering, communication and network security, security operations, security assessment and testing as well, identity and access management.
Yeah.
Software development security is something new to me, and I believe to you as well. As
Yes. I have
asset
touched few
security,
things related to that, but
okay.
of course it's not really towards software development life cycle, but few things related to how you can keep your code secure, how you have to make sure that your repositories in which you are keeping your code are always peer reviewed.
Mm, mm,
You are making sure uh, all the not only the binaries or packages, that's one of the thing. Even the code which you are writing for a particular application should be following some kind of security practices, like your username and password should not be hard coded. It should be somewhere stored in the backend secrets vault from where it should be patching. So it's not like if your front end application is dependent on backend database, and because it need to connect on some kind of APIs to backend database, it must be using some kind of authentication. And that authentication, you are simply putting username password of database in your front end application. It shouldn't work like that. You
Mm,
have to have some kind of secure strategy in place there, that there are some short term tokens, authentication tokens for API communication,
mm,
and there is
mm.
no kind of like hard coded credential. Some of the things I learned only recently, but of course I'm not that familiar for domain 8 as well. A domain
One of the
yeah.
important, the from the list you mentioned is from the Kubernetes. It reminds me of KMS,
Yes, yes.
where it's kind of keeping the secrets into the keeping the credentials into the key management system in a vault and then using them when it comes to
Yes, yes.
utilization.
Yeah, yeah. So that's those are the things. Of course, it will have more things when we go into it, but
Mm,
we have some idea now.
yes,
For domain one as well, means it's more related to management side. Of course, there are a lot of frameworks which
yes.
info security have to follow, and because it's not related directly with our job role, I'm not that familiar with those frameworks. Have to learn about
But
them.
I think as we started off, that it is more theoretical
Hmm.
and holistically covering all of the security aspects, like what is there from domain 2 to 8.
Hmm.
So I think we are not directly worked upon this, but we should be having it should
Some.
be covering all of that. So,
Hmm.
yeah, we should have some knowledge when we go in depth.
Yeah. At least we will be familiar with the names. Because of all
No,
those
no,
the managerial
you will know
discussion.
more. Yes,
Okay.
yes,
All right.
yes.
So these are the 8 domains. What should we? How should we plan? Should we go in sequence, or should we pick up something which we are already familiar, or we pick up something which we are not familiar? How should
I
we do?
think best idea would be, as we have just said it multiple times now.
Mm.
Domain one covers. That's my assumption that
Mm.
on very high level everything. So if we talk about or we kind of go through with a bit of domain one, then we will know more uh, how to go through with the domain rest of the domains.
Yes, yes,
Uh,
that makes sense. Of course.
hmm,
Maybe those topics, or those so-called concepts which will be covered in domain one somehow will be coming back in other
hmm,
domains as well. So it's good to start with domain one.
yes,
Okay, so we start our study from domain one.
yes.
We follow first, of course, Mike Chappell's videos for domain one. Are you planning to buy that book as well? The
I
sidelines
wanted
of
to bring that topic. Yes,
yeah,
I wanted to bring that topic up as well. But before we go into that,
yeah.
just so I'm sure that you have gone through as well, there are one in the questions which are we are going to appear in the exam is count is between 125 to 175,
Mm-hmm.
and not necessarily, yeah, not necessarily you have to, this exam doesn't give you a score at the
Yes.
last that how much you have scored, but there are certain points which we need to earn. This exam is also, you know, I do not remember the actual term, but the thing is that if you keep on giving the right answers, it kind of
Yes,
improves
yeah.
the quality of
Yeah, it's
questions.
having some kind of this advanced way of marking you in
Yes.
real time. You even cannot go back and review your
Mm.
already provided answer.
How it
So
used to be earlier.
yes, yes.
How
So
it used to. Yes.
yeah, even it's completely different than those other certification. Here you have to take every question like it's your last attempt. You cannot
Mm.
review it back if you have submitted the answer, and it changes real time the kind of questions you will be getting. Yeah.
Yeah, and there will be. four types or four categories of questions, although all of them are going to be multiple,
Mm-hmm.
choices, but some majorly all of them will be multiple choices, but there will be some of them on scenario based. So they will be kind of building a scenario, and then there will be set of questions based upon that, a series of questions based upon that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how you're going to see questions. Now, uh, once even hopefully we'll both will pass the exam, but once you pass the exam,
You
then not yeah
you cannot plan right away.
uh,
You have to wait for a certain period of time.
if
Yeah.
if you fail, if you
If you
fail,
fail, yes,
right,
of course.
and if you pass, then not necessarily you will write straightforward get the certified or get certification as well. You will need to be endorsed either
Yes.
by someone who has done the CISSP or by ISC square
Yes,
itself.
you have to show them that this is your uh, career history. You are doing this kind of work, and then based on that, if you go to ISC Square, then they will approve you. Otherwise, you befriend someone who, who can help you out. We have to maybe send some LinkedIn requests to already certified people if they
and
trust us
and
to endorse.
and if they trust us, and if they endorse you to get this to provide you the certification, then even if you get it, then you need to retain the certification. You will need to earn some CPs,
Yes,
what is there in this section 6 here.
yes.
So there are certain CP credits which you need to gain every year by doing different
Yeah,
uh,
you can do some
things.
kind of learning, any sort of this is actually good part. Means when I was reading about it as well, that they 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 include all sort of vast resources. So if you are listening to some podcast, you can get some points for that. If you are learning
Yes,
something on yourself, you can get, even if you are writing something, you can get points for that as well. And of course, I think
yes.
major points you will get if you do take another certification, which is I think 30 or 40 straight away you will get if you take another certification from
Yes.
them. And
Also, if you write a book, or maybe if you provide any lecture or something like that,
yes,
you then also you get the maximum numbers.
yes, and book must be related to technical, not
Yes.
not
No, we're not going to write a novel anyway.
yes, maybe some storybook, kids storybook. Peppa Pig in Wonderland.
I don't know. Maybe I will be knowing more than that in that.
Yeah.
So,
Yes. Uh,
so now coming back to the actual, one thing you brought up about the book.
yeah.
For book, I strongly feel, and that's my, kind of
Hmm.
understanding so far, that if we go down that path, that doing one session or
Hmm.
one completing one domain, then performing the questionnaire from that book of that respective domain will
Hmm.
give you, more clarity and confidence as well,
Yeah.
that you have kind of thoroughly completed that section.
Yes. Oh, okay. I.
Because if you go in one, if you complete in one go and then come to respective section from the
Hmm.
book, then it would be hard to recall what you did in
Yes.
security and risk management and then perform the questions.
Yeah, of course. That makes sense. For our discussion, I think we can keep it more granular as well. So maybe instead of having discussion after domain one, whole domain one, we can have this kind of weekly discussion on
Yes.
some subtopics of domain one, then rest of the subtopics.
Yes.
One thing I did
Yep.
for one of my certification was, you are absolutely right. Means we shouldn't be completing everything then going back with a book and questionnaires. We will be forgetting everything by then. But what I did in that certification, I try to cover the questions of domain 1, for example, when I finished domain 2. So because if we
Mm.
do domain 1 and we try to answer questions, we will be of course able to answer a few things, and we will be having sort of revision. But if you do after second domain, then you will have more kind of uh, a real level understanding how much you learned really, because you're not doing it right away, because then your knowledge is quite fresh. You can easily give those those answers, and you will feel that you know a lot of things. But in actual scenario, you have just finished that domain, so you, of course, you will be able to give the answer for that. So what I did in that is I try to cover questions of domain 1 when I finish domain 2. So it will be revision of my in domain of domain 1, and of course I have already covered domain 2. So something we can think in that way as well. That's one of the suggestion.
Yeah, that's a good idea. But the risk which I see in this security and risk management section one
Uh-huh.
is that if you if you tend to forget while
Mm.
you complete the second, then you might need to come back to
And
one
do
again
everything
and
again. Yes,
do
because
everything
it's
again.
less technical. So yeah, because the
Yes,
thing which I am comparing with was technical. So
yes,
you tend to recall more things if you are learning
yes.
something technical, but theoretical means it
And the
requires more.
technical things are very, unique in nature, so
Yes.
that remain within you for long.
Yeah. Okay, then that's agreed. Then we
Okay.
will wrap up. We will discuss in next call, next meeting, some topics of domain 1. And once
Yes.
we are finished with domain 1, we will have a one good session about with the questionnaires as well. So different questions related to domain 1, and then we will subsequently move to domain 2. So we
How many weeks do you target? Just on high level, if I
uh,
want to,
I
you know.
I
So
know
there
that.
are eight sections.
Yeah.
There are eight sections, and if you count, let's suppose 1.5 week or 2 weeks, some sections will be, I'm sure, taking lesser time. But on an average, let's count one
uh,
and a half to 2 week, two
mm,
weeks per section.
no, by section you mean domain 1? You
Yes,
No,
domain
no,
one,
I
2 weeks with book.
I think because domain these all domains have lot of subtopics, and if
Okay.
we are targeting even 3 subtopics per week. Maybe some of the domains we will be able to finish into 1.5 or 2 weeks, but some domains will take longer. Because I recall, I'm not sure which domain, but some of the domains have 8 or 9 subtopics or around 10 subtopics, which
Oh.
is bit higher. So it really depends. Some of them may be covered in 2 weeks. Some of them maybe we're taking more than that. If we go with 2.5 on an average with for all the domains, so it's
Hmm.
somewhere coming around 22 weeks, 20
22.
to 22 weeks, which is what for. I'm not that good
Hmm.
in math.
20. No, no, 5 months. It's simply
five
5 months.
5 months, yeah. So
Okay.
uh,
I think 5 months.
is
As long as I have seen, couple of not colleagues but known,
mm-hmm,
uh, the target, which not very harsh as well, but
mm,
3 to 4 months of target is something which is. I know that we both are busy. We are working full time,
yeah,
and we also extend our hours out of business hours.
mm-hmm,
But you know, uh, having a realistic target is better,
okay,
but also to stretch ourselves,
mm-hmm,
a little bit.
mm-hmm,
Uh, s- if we set it for 3 to 4 months, let's suppose four
mm,
months, and then if it goes to 5 months, that's fine.
mm,
But at least uh, we should target for. Um, so if you say for 20 weeks, as you said, so it becomes 5 months here.
yeah,
Okay, let's calculate the months or the weeks once we finish the first domain.
yes,
It
yep,
will be, yeah,
mm,
it will be more realistic afterwards.
yep. Man, like we discussed, means some of the domain are really, it seems like we will be able to wrap them up quickly, like related
Mm,
to network security, IAM. Those things are
mm,
pretty straightforward. So maybe yes, some of the things we will be
mm,
able to do even in 1 week, maybe in 1 week
mm,
discussion. So it's really things can change, but we can target 3.5 or 4 months where we will be
mm.
able to give our first attempt, first and final.
And how are you planning? Have you checked the book already? Is it available?
No, I haven't, but I have to see. I was even looking into. on marketplace as well. Because if it's if someone is selling it on second hand, doesn't make sense to buy a
Yeah,
new one. uh, Problem
yeah,
with this book is it's only paperback, so we cannot even buy a single one and kind of like share that, so we have to buy
mm-hmm.
our own. I will
Yes, yes, yes.
maybe we one of us can buy practice questions, and one of us can buy the Cybex or something, and then we see,
Mm,
we kind of review those books, and if it's really worthy, then of course we buy our own
mm.
copy as well.
Yeah, so you gave me a thought,
Mm-hmm.
or so I'm going to ask to my friends as well, to who have done this exam,
Mm-hmm.
if they have got if they have used the same Mike Chappell book for
Yes.
the questionnaire part.
Mm.
Otherwise, I'll check on the Amazon if it is available.
Yeah, because for CCSP I have this Cybex book, and Cybex is quite it again have kind of like a summary kind of thing. It's not covering things in detail, but it's a good book. Of course,
Hmm.
it's official ISC Square study material, so we can think over which one to get, Cybex or Mike Chappell.
Okay, cool. Let's do it.
Okay, so I think it's way more than around one
What
hour.
we thought of.
Yes,
Yes.
but it was good session. Thanks for your time.
Yeah.
It must be late for you now, so you have a good sound
Yeah,
sleep.
it's almost three. Anyway, yeah, it's around 10:30 here. So I think, yeah, it's the time to bed. And we try to have our sessions on Sundays, I believe, so
Mm-hmm.
that we get our weekend, to speed it up and
Mm-hmm.
cover as much as we can. And we can have a recurring session on Sundays.
Mm-hmm. Okay, sounds good.
Yes, sounds good.
All right. See you then.
Okay,
Let's catch up
see
next
you.
week. Bye bye. Good night.
See you. Good night.